Hello guys, hi, good morning, welcome. Don't be shy, come up, come forward. We got some literature for you here in the first rows. So please, don't be shy, come forward. I'm serious, come forward. Yeah. You get the full experience if you come forward. You get all our scenarios, rules, and everything else. We're gonna start in a minute.
Hello. So welcome everybody. So this is a special session. This is the first time we're doing it, co-chairing with Francesco this year. It will be a Oxford-style debate. So we're just going to give you a brief introduction for those of you who are not that familiar with Oxford-style debates. So we have two different teams, two different oppositions. There is one final vote, and you instructions for voting, and Francesco's going to go over how you'll be able to vote through your phones. To give you just an idea also that the session is actually web streamed and recorded. So just to let you know, you can also follow us at BBMRI Eric, at Francesco to get the links to see where it's actually live streamed. So basically we had patients, we had users that participated in the design and the implementation of this session, and we actually chose them through the abstracts that were submitted for this session. So abstracts were still submitted as the normal process that we do, but we have asked the people who actually submitted those abstracts to actually participate in that debate. So I really would like also, and pretty sure both of us would really like to acknowledge everybody who's been working to get this debate ongoing, from the debaters to the actual scenario team, the abstract submitters, everybody, and especially Michaela jumping in last minute too. Thank you very much. And just to give you a presentation of who are our people and who's going to be debating and who's going to be presenting the scenario and some of the background of the scenario. So the presenter of the scenario is Dr. Tianeke. She's been working and have experience in research policy making, research partnerships management and stakeholder, as well as societal involvement in research. She is also currently as the program manager for the clinical work package at BBMRI Netherlands. Then we have from the proposition team, we have Dr. Sophia Turner. She has a 20-year experience in establishing what we call a real-world oncology network studies. She's also a major stakeholder of all-party parliament group for cancer. We also have Dr. Ronnie Baber. He is also from the Institute of Laboratory Medicine from the University of Leipzig. He is currently the head of the Life Biobank. We also have Dr. Kent Alistair, who was the first executive director of the Genetic Alliance in UK. He's now working as a consultant, and he continues to advocate for patients and their families. On this side, we have the opposition team. We have Dr. Patrick Miqueux. Patrick Miqueux is responsible for the promotion of research and the collaborations with patients at the Jules Baudet Institute in Brussels. He's also coordinating a working group, collaborations for good practices with patients of the Organization of European Cancer Institutes. Then we have Dr. Michaela Mayhover. She is BBMRI ERIC's Chief Coordination and Policy Officer. She contributes to the coordination and knowledge generation of the Common Service ELSI and leads the Code of Conduct for Health Research Initiative. And we finally have Dr. Morten Oyen. He's a senior advisor in the Division for Governance and Management Systems at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology.
So thanks again for your time, and welcome again also from my side. So how does it work? What we're going to do today? As Ayat mentioned, we've got two teams. They're going to fight to death to convince you on their position. First, you will hear the main question that we will discuss today from Tineke, the chair of our scenario team. Then you will vote. You will have the chance to take your first stance on the two questions we're discussing today. I'm not going to tell you what the questions are. I leave this privilege to Tineke. I'm sure you're going to find them interesting. After that, we'll ask the team to come inside. So, in a minute, actually, actually, guys, maybe you can already approach the exit, so we can do this in a faster way. Thanks. So we'll ask them to come back. We don't want them to be biased from your decision. We'll ask them to come back and to agree with you and to try to convince you on their position. They will do that with a ping pong, with a series of speeches. 7 minutes from the proposition, 7 minutes from the opposition. At the end of each, let's say, round, the opposite team will have the chance to ask them questions. Don't worry, you will also be involved. After the end of round 2, you will also be able to ask the team you like questions. And in the end, the grand finale, we will ask you to vote again on both questions after you heard the two arguments, the two competing arguments, and to see if your idea changed, if actually there was a difference, if someone on the team managed to actually make swing some of you one way or the other. So here are in brief the questions. Tineke will explain them more in detail later on. But I would love you to familiarize a little bit with this. To help you do this, we prepared a scenario paper, which you have on your lab, hopefully. Have a look at that. It's just a map that you can keep in front of you all the time to just decide and basically keep in mind what we're talking about throughout the debate. Voting. Now, that's the fun part. I strongly invite you right now to pick up your phones or laptops or tablets or whatever you have. Do it right now. Pick it up. Go to this website, live.voxvote.com, and when prompted, use the code 38925. I leave it on the screen here, but there are also papers around that you can use. Make sure that you keep this page on your browser, because we're going to vote a lot of times. We're going to come up very often. You can refresh. It's going to work. If it doesn't, just do the process all over again. Again, the papers are there for you to use. Are you done? You there? Almost? Take time.
It's going to be a session just for mock questions.
Yeah.
Make sure that it happens. Don't worry.
So what we're going to do right now is to try it out, see if it actually works. It's okay, you can do without the www, or you can HTTP, whatever you like. But that's live.voxvote.com. It has to be. Thanks you. Sorry, my bad. No, that's the whole point. There's only browser based. Okay, let's give it a try. If I can ask the technician to switch the presentation. Thanks. So we're going to do a couple of mock questions and see what comes out of this. So, last night party, was it the best ever at EBW? Yes or no? Oh, sorry, wrong question. It was the best party at EBW, so I'm not going to ask you this, actually. But I'm going to ask you something else. Was mankind on the moon, yes or no? I'm going to start the vote right now. I said right now. Maybe it's coming. Sorry. Little glitch. That's the beauty of the. My computer froze completely. 1 second. I'm sorry, guys. My computer just doesn't want to cooperate. 1 second. It's completely frozen.
Did everybody get to the website? Yeah? So everybody has the information, or do we need to put it back on?
Yeah,
Sorry?
that's normal. It's
That's
normal
normal.
that it's not coming up. It's
Yeah.
normal that it's not coming up. 1 second, I think that Okay, so now it's working. You should be able to see the question on your phones. Can you? Yes? Good. Vote. You have 1 minute.
Less than a minute.
Less than a minute, yes. 1 minute from now. This is the first time we do this, so bear it with us. Okay, did everyone vote? You happy? Okay, let's bear 15 minutes, 15 seconds then. You can stop the vote. 62 users vote already. Congratulations, and let's see the result. Outstanding in favor of science. Congratulations. You know what's true and what's fake news. Well done. But then I'm going to ask you, since now you're more accustomed with the voting system, to vote on the real questions. Again, I hope that you had a look at the scenario. This it wants to be really as unprompted and as uninfluenced question as possible, answer as possible. So let's go ahead with it. Should individual research results be returned to patients, yes or no? And the vote is on. You're all done? Are you decided? You know what to do? Okay, I'm going to stop the vote right now then. 64 users, and here's the result. Very good. I'm not going to comment on this, otherwise the guys are going to hear us. Now we're moving to the second question. So should the company, which we are advising today, yes, let's do it. Let's go ahead and see, and then we can. So should the company give access to all the results? Well, again, my bad. First, we need to check the scenario with Tineke. So if the technician can switch again, please. Technician, switch.
Tineke will give you a presentation of the scenario so you're able to actually respond to the second part of the question. Because not all of you have a paper.
In front of me, yeah.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Tineke. Thanks to Ayat and Francesco for introducing this session. As Francesco already said before, bear with us. This is a new thing. We're trying to make it as fun as possible and also as efficient as possible. So let's continue from this. You've all hopefully seen the paper on the chair, which is describing the scenario that we're talking about. So today, this debate is all about should biobanks, should researchers return individual results to the participants or the patients that are included in the studies or in the biobanks? Well, this is a pretty dry sentence to just talk about, so that's why we came up with the scenario that also the two teams will debate about. It's an honor for me to present it, but I'm also a bit nervous because it's something new. We're trying to come up with a challenging and also a daring scenario for the teams to really prepare good arguments, but also for you so that we can really have a sharp debate. So what we're going to talk about today is about a company that actually came to us for advice, to you and me. They came to us to advise exactly on this topic. Should or should we not return results of what we are doing back to the patients and the participants in our that we're going to ask. So here is the company that we're going to talk about, Made Up Medical. This is their office. And what they want to do is develop a new diagnostic test to detect early symptoms of metabolic syndrome. So just, well, you can probably not read it in the back, but metabolic syndrome is a progressive disease that starts most often with severe obesity. And then the metabolism of the lipids, but also of glucose gets messed up. And when this gets worse, people get also problems with all kinds of other things. And in the end, it will affect, for example, cardiac function, but also liver function. And people can also develop diabetes. As I said, it's a progressive disease. If you detect it early, you may be able to reverse it or at least make sure that progression slows down. So that is exactly the interest of this company. What they want to do is what they've already done is develop a test to detect it early, and they want to see how accurate this test is and what the quality is. And for that they want to set up a cohort, including a biobank. So they want to set up this cohort of about 10,000 individuals, healthy and people that may be at risk. And they want to follow them up for 20 years. And they're including different types of both specimens, but also data. So they're collecting biospecimens. That's exactly what they're going to run the tests on. They're also collecting health data from the GPs. They will set out health questionnaires, and they will also include clinical data. And then their main goal in the end is to see how well the test performs and if they are able with their test to pick out those individuals that already have early signs of metabolic syndrome, and of course to compare that with the gold standard. That's now a combination of different types of clinical measures. So apart from setting up this cohort and this biobank, they're also interested in involving their participants in a proper but also a meaningful way. And that's why they came up with this web-based platform, a platform to return the results of the study to their participants. It's a web-based platform. People will be able to log in a secured manner with their own private login. And the platform has 3 different levels. The first level is with general information on the company, on the study. Maybe news items can be posted there. Maybe there will even be some kind of a forum where participants can talk to each other. The second level will be with information on the study. So how many participants are already included? How many analyses did we already do? And what are the midterm outcome of these analyses? And then there's the third part, and that's the interesting part for today. The third part is a very private part where people can find their own individual results. So the results on the outcome of the test, both the new diagnostic, but also the current gold standard. They will also see the outcome of their health data, the questionnaires, the clinical data, and they will also see that in comparison to the whole group. And the company has included some kind of a traffic light system. And when a person has a red light, that means you should actually go to your doctor now because there's something going on. So this is what they've come up with. And they've come to you and to us to ask for advice. Is this something that we should do? So apart from the general question that you already answered, should individuals that participate in a biobank or in research, should they also receive their own individual results? We also have a more specific question that is based on the advice that we want to give this company. Should this company create this platform? So that is what we're going to talk about this morning.
Thank you so much, Megan. This is really helpful. So I hope you understand what we're going to do today. We've been called by this company. We need to decide and help them choose if they should take this platform or not. So our decision in the end will be implemented by our imaginary company, by our fellows. It's going to be up to you to choose. To do that, I invite you again to pick up your phones and our technician to switch. And the vote is on. All right, are you all done? So go ahead, let's see. Stopping the vote. 66 users, wow, every time we get a couple of new people, I love that. And let's see what's the result. Ah, interesting. The balance is different. Very well. I can then invite to join us, and please let's switch back the presentation. So now that you have understood, I hope, what we're going to do today, now that you know more about the scenario, now that you know more about the debaters, it's time to get to the thick of it and let our experts speak for themselves and try to convince you if data should be returned to the patients or not. For this, I am very, very proud to invite the proposition team, so the team in favor, Sofia, to take the floor and to kick off.
Hello. So, some say a measure of a good biobank is that it's an empty biobank, because patients who provide and consent their tissue to research actually want it to be used. And it's the same with individual research results. Patients are contributing their data because they want their data to be used. Research is expensive. It costs both the patient and the researcher time and money to collect. These expensive data points might seem to have little value today, but they may be essential for clinical informatics and artificial intelligence tomorrow. For example, a recent report has given evidence that the life course is important, that diet during the period of adolescence is linked to the development of breast cancer in adulthood. Science is moving, and when we cannot really know what data we should safeguard, we should make efforts to centralize all of it. I am proposing that data points should be returned to patients, and there are 3 reasons why. The first reason is so as not to duplicate the financial cost of data collection. The second reason is because these data points can be triangulated with the full patient health record to provide an enriched data set for health research. And finally, research results may provide direct value to the patient. I'll address each point in turn. And firstly, we need to reduce financial costs in a healthcare system which is spiraling into debt. People are living longer with many comorbidities and chronic diseases. So why should the same genetic test potentially be done multiple times because it is not shared with the patient and logged with their records in the first place? Tests are expensive. My BRCA test cost £1,300. Given increasing healthcare costs and disease burden, given that cancer patients in the US are expected to increase by 25% by 2026, data should be pooled for real-world evidence research studies that can inform and drive the best and most economic treatment options. Sharing data with patients is another step towards the big data revolution that's needed for personalized medicine. Some may argue that there's a cost in returning data to patients. Let me tell you, this would be a tiny fraction of the total cost of the study. Even if effort is made to ensure communications are appropriate for the different needs, the different capabilities, the different backgrounds of the patients, costs are a tiny fraction. And what's more, the research study itself is likely to gain from returning that data because it's nurturing a productive and collaborative research relationship with patients. There's less lost follow-up and there's increased engagement research lifecycle. My second point was that data may have value above and beyond the immediate research study. If the data is patient-owned, it can be triangulated with other healthcare records, which the patient can then proactively share in further research. Whilst biobank data is limited by the volume of the sample, data points from research have no such limitations. And because science demands that research results are reproducible, these research results are reliable. Many patients are wanting to share their data. And rather than wait for health system technologies to talk to each other and wait for the opportunity to give broad consent to their data use in research, they're taking ownership of their own data and they're turning to other initiatives. One such example is the Swiss-owned Health Bank. This has the ambition of being a type of savings bank where an individual can deposit all of their health data. The patient and his healthcare team and carers can access this data at will. As well as being a health savings bank, this also signposts a rich pipeline of research studies to patients, and patients will be able to choose whether or not to contribute their data. As a result, as well as satisfying normal motivations of altruism, gratitude, reciprocity, and solidarity, patients may also be reimbursed financially, but they need complete, rich, and well-curated data sets so that they're of value to the researchers. Another example of a patient-driven sharing initiative is Tony Blau's All for Cure data sharing platform. All for Cure collects consented myeloma patient data from hospitals to a centralized platform. The platform has been used by clinicians to identify best treatment options, but it's also been used by patients to successfully challenge negligent insurers. Patients are showing signs that they want to own their own data and that they win in all sorts of ways. So just as a good biobank is an emptied biobank, i.e. used, a good data set is a data set that has contributed to many insights. Sharing research results with patients is one way of making this happen, because checking the box on the bottom of forms that says, I consent to the use of my data for health research, doesn't guarantee that the data is actually going to be used. Usage depends on the provider's ability to resource the research pipeline. That means they need to manage the contracts, they need to provide information governance, they need to provide sufficiently well-curated, enriched and hosted data. Providers often can't free up the resource to do this. Thirdly and finally, research data may be of direct value to the patient. It might be of value for their personal use today or in the future. For example, a patient's research data may already contain the results of tests that they need. An example scenario could be the results of a genetic test that would otherwise require a 4-week turnaround, that would otherwise delay their chemotherapy. Alternatively, biomarkers of no known significance today might have clinical significance to the patient in a year's time. Furthermore, diagnoses are not proactively updated as science progresses. For example, data from the original tumour is not reassessed, records are not changed, and patients are not notified. An informed patient who owns their own enriched data is able to align their condition with medical advances. My own triple-negative breast cancer is actually a new breast cancer subtype. It is actually quadruple-negative breast cancer because it lacks also the androgen receptor. This isn't on my diagnosis. When research results are shared with patients, they have a heightened awareness of disease and lifestyle choices. Patients have an opportunity to see biomarkers and make lifestyle changes before clinicians consider that trend relevant. It takes a lot of time and research, medical ruling, to make lifestyle changes.
Sophie, 30 seconds for your conclusions.
Okay. It took the World Health Organization the analysis of 800 observational studies before it was able to classify processed meat as a carcinogen in 2015. Patients can't wait that long. They need to make informed lifestyle choices today. Patients can preempt robust medical advice by using their own data, and the data returned to them from research has importance to them. So, in summary, I believe that all study protocols should include plans on how to return research results to patients. I've described how this will be of benefit to the study itself, to research at large, overall finances, and direct value to the patient.
Thanks. Thanks, Sophie. One again notice for the speakers, keep it to 7 minutes, as we said. I'm going to allow this. I'm going to give a little bit more to the opposition just to balance it out, but we're not going to be as forgiving as this time. Opposition team, one question for. Do you have a question for the proposition team?
It's working fine. Yes, I have a question relating to your last promise of added value outside the clinic. What about a situation where this private health savings banks goes bankrupt? Everybody that's been in the private sector for some time would know that that actually happens. So what happens to the data then?
Thank you very much for keeping it short, and thank you very much for keeping it. Could you repeat again the question?
The question is, most of these companies coming up now offering patients this kind of solutions, like this health savings bank solution, are private companies. Now, private companies also go bankrupt. So in a situation where this private company, where you actually put your data into, goes bankrupt, what would you be facing?
So what happens when a company providing a service go bankrupt? Do you want to reply? You have also the chance not to take the reply.
A patient can move its data into another organization. A patient has that data to put into many different places, and so that one place might fail is not an issue.
Good, we'll take that. Moving on, opposition team. Patrick Micke, you're up. We'll give you your time, plus a little bit more. 30 seconds more, so the floor is yours.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, and dear colleagues. So, what's the debate? The debate is that the proposition team thinks that it's a good idea to give back to research participants any of their individual research data as soon as possible. And we think that it's not a good idea. First, I would like to make a clarification. What are research data? Research data are not any research results that are obtained during the course of research. Research data are actually obtained from tests that would not be used for standard clinical decision-making because they are exploratory and their health implications are today not unknown or unvalidated. So maybe this to make the distinction. We are not talking about restricting the access to patients to their health records, not at all. We are really talking about this data that today are not meaningful, maybe they will be in the future, and we think that it might be not the best idea to provide it now once they are produced. So I think we have a clash, and I will tell you two arguments where we think it's not a good idea. My first argument would be to talk about the defense of research integrity, and I will talk about research integrity. The second one is that this practice of returning individual research results will change the way we are actually engaging patients into research. Our model of participation today is based on voluntariness. And we think that this way, this practice will change it. So I will come to my first on the research integrity. So why is research integrity is important? What is important? When you enter a trial, for example, or when you want to participate in a study, behind this, there is a research question. And you are doing this, you are participating in a research study because you know that as a society, researcher, clinician, we have got the same research question and you are contributing to help to answer the research question. For this, we need to have methods. It's not just only data, data, data. Data doesn't produce results. Data produce results when they are framed into a design, when we have an experiment. For example, you all know about randomization, about double-blind. These are methods that we need to use as researchers to be able to drive conclusions. It's not just for the sake of having this kind of things. We really need it. And if we don't use these methods, we cannot drive conclusions. And we think that it's harmful, for example, to think that in any cases, it's good to give back research results, even if they could influence the parameter we are looking at. So I want to come back on the example. I think the example is striking. When you look at what this company is doing, she wants to make standard and they say, okay, let's put 10,000 patients for 20 years and we will give them since the beginning a test that we don't know if it works. So you will get the test and you will see, oh, I may have the syndrome. So what will you do? You will try to change your way of life, you will take treatment. So in a way, you will try to make something out of it. And maybe after 20 years, you won't get it. And you will say, fine. What does it mean? It means that we don't know if actually it's as good as predicted and you may have it, but you took the good action. So this is a point. In some experiments, you cannot drive conclusions if you're not restricting the access of the data. An experiment has a start, has an end. And even in clinical trials, clinicians, most of the time, they don't have access to the research results of their own patients because it may influence them in the way they treat. We need to build evidence. This is why we do research. And patients are engaging in research because they want this evidence. So maybe for a small amount of time, until researchers really know what it means, it's good not to have your research data. This is for your aim. The aim of research is this, get evidence. So this is my first argument, and I think you understand. The second one is a model of participation. What do we want? Today, I work in an hospital. We have a lot of patients that are entering trials, sometimes phase 1 trials, and they come because, of course, they have a hope, but also they want to make sense of the experience they got. And they want to make sense, and I'm sure they're not thinking about, yeah, I will get my research data. To be honest, we think that this way of showing that research is a give and take is not the good way to see it. Actually, research, you engage in research because you believe in it and you believe that it will work and it will stand for something. We don't want to be consumers of research. To be honest, I was really thinking when I read the example that it was a bit based like this Californian company selling genetic tests. You send it, they send you the test, you pay for the test, you get the results, but in your back, they're doing research and they won't tell you what they're doing with it. Okay, this is the way we can see research. It's not give and take. We still think that voluntariness is a huge thing, and of course, it's only for a short period of time where you can consent not to get your results back. So, to summarize what we said, it's not about restricting health records at all. It's just when data we don't know what they mean, please let the time to researchers to figure it out what it is. I think it doesn't really help to get a piece of the puzzle if you don't know what the main picture look like. So so this is our two main arguments, and I think that yes, with the public decision team, we are into a debate, and that the clash stands between us.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Any questions from the proposition team?
So essentially you're saying it's okay for me to die in order for you to get new knowledge.
That's all, but I think that participating in a research study, you understand that the setting is different. You have the care setting and you have the research setting. The research setting, there is constraint because we want to build knowledge. We don't put constraint just because we are vicious. We're putting constraint because this is the only way to get knowledge, and we want knowledge as fast as possible with the least resources as possible. We don't need the data of everyone. We need just the data we need to build on it. No, it's not a maximalist approach of research that we want. We want focused research. We want clear research questions, and we want as well that we use the data when we need it.
Thank you very much, Patrick. We'll continue on. Ronnie, it's all yours.
So, hello everybody. Who was in the opening ceremony on Tuesday? So, lots of people. I think our debate starts right there because Philip de Backer was asked by Gertjan van Onnen if people should know what happened to their samples, and they said, of course they should. They have the right to get their data. And they also should have to know what happens to their samples, and they should have the right to cancel their participation in the study if they don't really like it. But you need informed participants or patients for that. So we have to inform them. And they should also get the right to give their samples to other studies, to gain knowledge, and also to bring their data over to them. So we have to engage with our donors. And just to reply to the speaker before, we are in the era of big data, and we need this big data to get new research details, which might not help now, but of course can help in the future. Not just us as researchers, but of course the patient and the people who will become patients. And that's one special thing we have to do. And even if you don't know if biomarkers from high quality samples might help now, they probably can help in the future. So now I will come to my arguments. I think it's not the question if we should give the data to the participants. It's the question how we give it to them. Of course, we know that the quality of samples has to be very good to get reproducible results. So we have to care for the quality of the samples. And of course, we have to care for the quality of the results we get out of the samples. And that's what we in a biobank have to do. The other thing is, we only should give the data out to the patients or to the study participants with explanations, what we did, why we did this research, and what kind of research we did with their samples, and what is the content of the study. And the results we give out to the patients or to the study participants should be explained by a specialist in the field of the study we did. We also should give guidance to the study participants or the patients what to do with their data when we deliver them to them. What kind of studies might be interesting for them to bring their data in. So we need an informed patient or an informed study participant to help the medical research get better and to become precision medicine come true. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. Opposition, do you have any questions?
Now, isn't the question of whether or not a patient should be informed of what is done with a sample a totally different question to whether those results coming out of the research should be returned. In my opinion, it is. So could you please explain that? Because you seem to be saying that's the equal thing.
I didn't get, it's really hard to understand.
Yes.
To repeat it in slightly different words. You argued that there's a necessity in the research community to keep patients informed about what is happening to their samples. But that's, in my opinion, is a totally different question to what is posed here today, whether or not to return results coming out of that research. So you seem to be saying that that's the same thing. So could you comment on that?
My argument was not that we of course have to give the data out to them, and this is not the question for me. So
Anything to add?
Well, we can go
Thank
ahead.
you very much.
Thanks, Ronnie.
Just a reminder for the audience, we do have a question period just after Michaela's 7 minutes. So do prepare your questions if you have any, and we'll have a discussion afterwards. So Michaela, it's all yours.
All right. We have a case study. We have a case at hand, a company that has developed a new diagnostic tool to detect early signs of metabolic syndrome. Especially, it will look at slowly developing conditions that relate to obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. This is of personal interest to me because in my family history, there runs all these diseases. It doesn't look the part right now, but I can be prepared that eventually at least one of those diseases will be popped up. So obviously, I'm interested in this study. Should I change my lifestyle? So the question is, what is my lifestyle right now? My lifestyle is that I'm conference hopping, I'm constantly tweeting, I'm partying yesterday at the conference dinner until midnight. I came here to be prepared for the Ethics Cafe at 7 o'clock in the morning. In between, I think I got 3 hours sleep. Yes, definitely, I need to do something to change my lifestyle. Should I tweet more? We definitely are the king of tweets here at this conference. Well, maybe I should reduce a bit because you guys are doing much more than I can ever could. And I always feel I should shut up more rather than to talk. But then the question is, what is the case at hand? The case at hand is that the private company looks into developing conditions related to obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular diseases. And yes, I'm interested in a study as such. I volunteered for similar ones. However, what is this particular study doing? They recruit 10,000 healthy individuals, want them to collect biospecimens and data from me over the next 20 years. I'm in the field of biobanking, and I'm proud and happy to contribute. But 20 years puts things in perspective also for me, because believe it or not, in 20 years, at least as it runs now, I'm ready for retirement. Being reminded of what retirement means at my age now is something really far away. And of course, one has to think of the future, but being poked and the guinea pig for the next 20 years by a private company where I don't know what they're going to do with my data, because that is not what this case really specifies about. Which company that is formed has a lifespan of 20 years? I do not even know whether Facebook is that long up and about, and we hear it's going down. And by the way, Facebook, there was Google Analytica. What gives me a chance and a feedback that this company is not doing something similar? Because we all know that data is the new oil. And I'm saying this with all due respect. We are talking here about healthy individuals in this study. With being checked up every 3 months for the next 20 years, I see myself as a patient. And I have to reconsider then my role I'm used to live multiple roles, but I'm not happy in being pushed into a role that I do not feel right now. I'm a woman, I'm potentially a mother, but I'm constantly getting angry if somebody addresses me like that, because you are a woman, can you tell me how motherhood is? No, I have no clue. So we'll definitely not talk about that, because I seriously believe you can only talk about things once you experience them, and not being pushed into a position by a case study that is really run by a private company. And then, yes, the data is out there, and yes, I give my consent, and yes, I can check a lot of things that are in there, but the costs might be better for the healthcare system. But what about my individual costs? My individual cost is that the responsibility to take care of the data is basically shifted to my hands. And I'm relatively knowledgeable in the field. So I can only imagine how hard it must be for those who are not that knowledgeable to really follow up on this responsibility shift to take care of it. We heard in earlier statements what should be done and what will be done. Well, a lot of these are normative assumptions. This is a case study. In anything we're doing, we have to look at the case at hand and then decide from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michaela. One comment, our Twitter habits. The Twitter habits of the chair should not inform this debate in any way. Please don't associate us with any of the teams, because we are not. Proposition team, do you have any questions for Michaela?
Michaela, you said that data is the new oil. You said that data is the new oil. Isolated data that's not triangulated with the rest of the personal health records, how valuable do you really think that is?
I think it's completely non-valuable. Again, my argument is we have to look at the case at hand to really decide how to move forward. And whether there is an oil plantation in your backyard, whether it's in an environmental area, or it is somewhere where it can be resourcefully exploited, are two different set of questions.
Thank you so much, Michaela. All right, now we go back to you guys. It's your opportunity to pick up the mic and ask your questions to the teams. A little bit of housekeeping before we do that. Keep it as short as possible. We're gonna ask also the teams to reply in a shortest and most concise way they can, so we can cram as many questions as possible. Don't be shy. Let us know what you think. And for the very few, but yet existing viewers on YouTube, hi. We're gonna check Twitter. So if you have any questions for us, don't hesitate to ask us via the hashtag of the conference, hashtag EBW18. So the floor is yours. Please approach one of the mics, introduce yourself, and ask up.
We do have time for lots of questions.
Yep.
Gerard Zielhuis from Netherlands. I have a question for Patrick about methodology. You speak of the context of trials, but in the area of biobanking, epidemiological cohorts, don't you think we need a paradigm shift and be able to cope as methodologists, as epidemiologists, as biobankers, to cope with the individual changes, either because of personal choice or because of new information coming out of this study?
For me, I would say each time the same answer. If you have a question, you have a plan, you have a methodology, and then according to some methodologies, you cannot unblind data. If you talk about
old school.
repository,
That's old school. My question is,
Excuse me. Wait. Sorry. Let's keep it clean. Okay. So one question. One
I don't
answer.
know if it's also.
We give the chance also to the other team to answer, and then go back to you.
We see a lot of promises with AI and everything will be revolutionized. Maybe stick to the results now and how you will be feel confident to take a new medicine. I think you will feel confident to have a new medicine if you have evidence in front of you. And maybe we are going really fast on thinking that data are coming and then the conclusion is already here. I don't think so. I think most of the time we have to plan what we want to question. And we are talking about biobanking. Okay, if you have a biobank without questions related to your biobank, I think maybe the biobank doesn't really worth to do it. So I think you
Thanks. Proposition team, you want to reply? You have anything to say? If not, we move to the next question. I see you there, so go ahead. Yours.
This is not a case study of finding the evidence for the efficacy of a new drug. It's an observational study for a new diagnostic test. And the return of results will definitely influence the behavior of the participants. But we could use that, changes in behavior. That's my point.
exactly. Maybe you didn't have the time to read exactly the study, but the study is we want to assess specificity, sensibility of a test. We don't know what it means. We give it to you, and then you can make anything you want. You can take medicines. You can maybe stop going to the trial because for 20 years, maybe when you will get sick 3 times, you will see it's negative. Maybe you won't spend 20 years coming back to be checked again. And then you think that this, I mean, when I really looked at the study, I was thinking, I think they have no questions. They are pretending they have a question. They are pretending they want to test their tools, but in reality, they just want to submit it to patients and see how it goes, to be honest. It's not serious. I mean, the way the scientists want to prove that their test is good or bad, better or worse than the gold standard, are not serious.
Thanks, Patrick. Proposition. Now it's to take the data. Do you have anything to add to this? 1 minute.
But as you said, they also do the gold standard and give them those data. And I also think this is important for them, because if they have the risk and they have the chance to change their lifestyle, they can do it. And from the other side, of course, they did their own test to search for specificity and so on. But why not?
Thanks. No. Next question.
Yeah, I have a question. It's a little bit, maybe really easy.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Mark
Sigma.
Sigma. I'm a lawyer and I'm working for a software company, and we are in clinical trials and biobanking. My question is for the opposition, and I like your statements, they're really good, but somehow they're kind of introducing that the data has to go to the patient. And as a lawyer, I stick to Article 20 of the GDPR rules. So Article 20 says the patient or the data subject has the right that the data is coming to him. He or she has the right. So I would say a great debate, but unfortunately, the law says exactly what the positions team said. So I think nice try, but unfortunately, we have a law.
Thank you very much. So, Patrick, okay, yeah, it's up to you, the question.
I mean, I have no problem to get back the results at the end of the study. Because at the end of the study, it won't be a research result anymore. It will be something which is all clinically relevant or something which is not relevant, and then it's no more research results. This is the point. I mean, of course, I mean, I don't want to, we don't need to keep the data for all the research participants for the rest of their life. We don't need this. We need for a period of time to be able to analyze them without any bias. And then at the end we will know it's clinically relevant, it's not, we give it back to you. No problem.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
Supplement the answer. I'm also a lawyer. As far as I know, my interpretation of the GDPR is that you're not obliged to return individual research results as defined in our scenario.
Thanks. Very clear.
Proposition team, do you have anything to add?
All right. Let's move to the next question. Please.
Okay, good morning. My question, my name is Gobel from Austria.
My question addresses the team on the left-hand side from my view. I'm biostatistician and I have analyzed several studies with some complicated statistical methods, and the results usually are also complicated in some way, complicated to read, complicated to understand. The question I have is, which individual relevance would you expect from scientific results for one individual person? My experience is that we usually don't have a direct individual relevance. This is the first thing. And if we think this is in a further way, this might be a little short, yes, wouldn't be a little bit provocative. We could stop regulation processes for treatments and drugs, because only the publication of the data would justify and enable patients to use drugs and treatments. We don't need regulations anymore.
Thanks. The question clear.
Can you repeat the question very briefly, please? They didn't catch the question.
If I understood correctly, one question is, what's the individual gain of so much complicated biostatistic information coming from a study as such? The second question, to be honest, was a bit hard to understand, but we stick to the first for the moment.
I think the answer, what do I stand to gain as an individual from the return of my results is that I don't know. But if you don't let me have them, I can't know. So I need to be able to evaluate what relates to me against what is known more widely about a particular situation.
Thanks, Alistair.
Opposition team, do you have something to add?
Not knowing and the possibility of not to know is also one of our rights.
All right, next.
My name is Inge, I'm from Lübeck in Germany. Getting access to data is okay from my point of view, but getting access to individualized results, especially for tests, developed tests, is critical because of false positives. It's a big issue how people can deal with probabilities with false positives. We have in Germany a big issue with all the screenings for lots of diseases, and you have this issue of false positives. How do you deal with that?
Thank you. To whom you are addressing your question, sir? To whom you're addressing? Left, right, proposition, opposition? Proposition.
Proposition.
Do you take the question? Sir, would you mind stating your question in a bit more of, shout?
I'm sorry. Just a question. To get data is okay, but do you agree that giving patients information like you get Alzheimer with 80% probability, is that a good idea?
Okay, so how do you deal with percentages and risk and uncertainty? Are we ready as a society, as patients, to deal with this?
Well, some of us will be. Some of us will be able to understand and deal with probabilities and statistics and be able to draw logical inferences. So why not give us the chance?
Thank you. Proposition?
I think this is already the case. I mean, we are dealing with probabilities, even with clinical parameters. So I don't think this is not the debate. The debate is not here. The debate is that when we have results that need to be analyzed and we don't know what they mean, do you need to get them and do you need to harm the way that we won't be able to drive conclusions? This is the question. Can you wait? This is a question for the sake of science and for the sake of future patients.
Thanks.
Can we take one last one?
Last one.
Go ahead.
Oh, great. My name is Mike Lansing. I'm a medical ethics researcher, and this question is actually directed to what you last said, Mr. Kent, but also to what you mentioned before, Ms. Turner, about the costs and the potential of sharing data to reduce costs. I was wondering, if you tell every patient what might be possibly wrong with them, what would that do to the costs of medical care? I don't think it will be, very sort of, keeping it down.
Thank you. Sophia, Alistair, Ronnie. Sophia, you brought it up. So I think it's only fair that you answer the question.
That's a very good point. Patients often have their own private healthcare systems, and once it's been negated any kind of worry, then they would be left to their own devices. So I don't see that it would be an enduring cost to healthcare, and I think that triangulating data to better make healthcare decisions evidence-based, so that you get a personalized approach to medicine is a much more efficient way of working anyway. I think giving drugs that have a 70% chance of working to a patient at costs of thousands of pounds over the course of 6 months is not the way to go. I think we need to be much more personalized to have more efficient healthcare. So, yeah, that's my answer.
Thanks. Opposition, very quickly. Nothing to say? Nothing to say. Then, since we have no opposition, I think we can take also very last question.
It's actually a comment, not a question. It will be a huge time saver, if not also a mental boost, if you give results back to patients right away. Just think of the rare disease community where the diagnosis of disease can take up to 10, 20 years. So all these years, you get medicine you don't need, you get more ill, you get rushed to hospital and back. Once you have your diagnosis 10 years earlier, you have a better quality of life and they can treat you and maybe even save you.
Thanks, Marlene. Any point on this? Any comment on the comment? Michaela.
I could not agree more with you, and we still have to look back. What is the case study at hand? The case study is not about rare diseases. It is talking about normal things where the plan is missing in how to follow up and address all these questions.
Thank you for reminding us of the scenario. Propositions?
Hello. So we can move ahead with Kent, Alistair, to come forward with his arguments.
Right. Thank you very much. Should you return research results to patients? Well, of course you should. Of course you should. Why would you not? The data collection has only been possible because patients and families have engaged with this project, have provided their samples, their information, their experience, their insights. The advance of knowledge is only possible because you have that willingness, that altruism from patients and families to contribute to the research program. Of course, we hope as patients for direct benefit from it. We hope to get something that will improve our situation. But our expectations are tempered by our experience. We know that if something sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. And we're used to making judgments about how to manage our healthcare or the healthcare of our children based on incomplete evidence, on partial information. Partial in the sense of bias, but also partial in the sense of there is always more to know. But we're also driven by altruism, by the hope that the experience we have as a patient, or as a parent or a carer of a patient, need not be shared by others because of that new knowledge. So we willingly provide our information, our experience, our samples, in the expectation that we will be partners in this opportunity to create new insights, new knowledge. And therefore we need to have the same access to the outcomes as the research team, as the clinicians, and the other stakeholders. It's not acceptable for a scientist or a doctor or whatever to exercise control over my access to information about my health status or the health status of my child, to decide what I should and should not know. You know, to assume that it's too difficult for me to understand is both patronizing and offensive. You know, you will not know as a scientist what use I might wish to make of the data that you have about me. I may want to use it in ways that are completely out with your area of expertise, your experience, your expectations. I may want to use it in ways that you think are, you know, mad, bad, and inappropriate. But that's my right, because it's my data, it's about me, it affects me. So don't withhold it from me. Don't deny me the opportunity to make decisions about the future management of my healthcare because you don't think I'm able to cope with the information you have. Now, of course, I'm not saying we should be forced to have this information. We should have a choice, though. We should know how to exercise the option of knowing what you know and then being able to use it in ways that we want. You can hedge the stuff you give us around with as many caveats as you like about how uncertain it is, how unreliable it is, how transient it might be. But don't deny us the opportunity to access it in order to be able to use it in ways that we feel appropriate to influence our own lives. We all know, you know, the old Rumsfeld thing about what we know we don't know, and what we don't know applies to this as much as to anything else. But we're talking in the scenario you were given about a 20-year study. Now, over the course of 20 years, the personnel involved in the research team, they will change, they will move on, they will get new jobs, their careers will take other directions. It's all too easy for us as individuals to fall through the net and not be able to benefit from new knowledge because the system is imperfect. But if we have the data that relates to us, if we're the guardians of our own data set, then we have the opportunity to plug into that new knowledge and to make it work for us. The study also in question has a specific focus, but the data may have relevance to other areas of our lives, out with the focus of the study. And if that's the case, we need to be able to take advantage of it. And over the course of that 20 years, there will be new opportunities, new insights, new ways of intervening. So fundamentally, if we have access to our data, to the stuff that relates to us, to me, to my family, then we have the opportunity to take control. We don't have to rely on the system to do it for us. We don't have to rely on something cropping up that causes a flag to wave in the consciousness of the scientist or the clinician, say, oh, I think I must tell him that. Of course, it's very nice when that happens, but it doesn't happen universally and it doesn't happen reliably. So essentially, in supporting this proposition, what you're doing is responding to my human right to have access to information about me that I can use for purposes that are relevant to me, that may be unfamiliar to you, or practically impossible for you to deliver because of the constraints of the situation in which you are operating. So I would therefore urge you to support the proposition, to vote for the return of research results to patients, because only then are in a position to know how best to apply them to resolving the health issues that affect their lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, so thank you very much for what you said, because I mainly understand and feel the same as you're saying. But I think you have a misconception about research. When you say that we are controlling the access of your data, when you say the researcher know what I don't know, I think you don't understand that as researcher, when we are analyzing data, the data are anonymized, which means that I have no idea of this person, and during a short amount of time, and I try to be as fast as possible, I try to analyze your data. I try to make, not your data, the data, and I try to make sense of it, okay? So this is the first thing. So I think there is a misconception thinking that even the clinicians sometimes they don't know the research data. And I think it's good, because otherwise it could influence your treatment based on something which is not proven. Second thing, you think that we don't really care about the future of the patient, and I think we have a custody on your data, on your samples. And if you go into trial, for example,
that's not an argument, it must be a question. Sure.
So I think we have this custody, and you should trust research with this custody.
That was not a question, but it's fine.
I think you don't know what I understand about the nature of research. And if you try and constrain my access, then you are making assumptions about my ability to take alternative actions that may add information that I will find useful. I'm one of the participants in the 100,000 Genomes Project. If I want, I can have my genome in its raw form, and I can take it, Genomics England will provide it to me, and I can then choose to do what I will with it. I can take it to another company to have it analyzed. I can use it for ways that are outside the direct interests of the 100,000 Genomes Project. That's my right, and should I wish to exercise it, I can do so. And I think it's only appropriate that that is the case for subjects participating in research.
Thank you very much. Last but not least, Morton.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I move on to make the closing argument of the opposition team, I think it might be beneficial to remind you of what you've been asked to vote on. You've been asked to vote on to do or not to do. So all the questions raised now by the other team's second member of how to do it is basically irrelevant. Those questions only come up if you vote for the proposed question at hand. So basically, return of research results is not an academic exercise, it's a practical exercise. So what you need to be looking at and evaluate from your position is actually seeing this in a holistic perspective. So first, looking at the research community as a stakeholder in this. What is the most likely result of introducing a moral or legal obligation to return all individual research results in the given world? In our opinion, the most likely result is that you take away resources from the research itself, resources that are already scarce, into moving stuff that has a very, very doubting value for those in the recipient end. And I'm sure that most of you are researchers, so you know about this present situation with your institutions. It's not that you have that much resources. And this a rollout of return of research results obviously is going to impact your ability to do the research. So, secondly, looking at the question at hand, you need to evaluate this question with a perspective of the healthcare system. So we have been suggested here that, and that was part of the if argumentation, when results are returned, they need to be handled by your doctor, your general practitioner, to actually make sense for you as a patient. Now, you all have your general practitioner. I don't really know how the situation is in your country, in Belgium or elsewhere, but I know very much about it in my country. And general practitioners in my country basically have too many patients and too little time to attend to the patients. So what would be the likely impact on the general practitioner level having these results handed over to the doctor? We are saying, in this setting that you're looking at, most likely nothing would happen at that level because the resources are basically not there to take action on these results returned. Now, thirdly, and as the third stakeholder group, then you have a patient, and I assume that we all be patients. So there's basically an argument here that we can, this general rule and practice, the suggesting by the opposing team, would empower us as patients. Now, we seriously doubt that, because what are we going to actually do with that information, the data that's being returned as a patient? And I think our team member, Michaela, very eloquently argued this based on the scenario that he presented. So basically, at least looking at myself, if I had been part of this study and this dashboard came up showing either red or orange or green, I would most likely end up in the orange and green, sort of the yellow or green category. So actually, being now a reasonably healthy person, living happily with any problems I might have, I will be presented with data that I have actually no direct use of, and another element would be introduced. I would be sort of doubting my own ability to judge my own health. So the added factor here, the most likely added value, is actually that I would start worrying about my future health situation. And then again, being told by somebody else that you are actually living, not a very healthy life. If you look at recent research, there are clear indications that if people are feeling that they are blamed for their own behavior, what is the most likely output of that? Yes, it's actually that it's not then starting changing lifestyle. It's actually doing the opposite thing, sticking to your present lifestyle. So you might actually, in most cases, say, you would actually look at, I would be then even more set at going about, having my drink and eating good food. So closing up, we think at the opposition team, the whole idea, concept, and especially implications involving a general duty to return research results are a bad idea. Thank you.
We do have some time for questions. Opposition team, any questions to the arguments?
Okay, guys, please don't die.
Your first argument was that it's costly and it's scarce research resource that would be providing the results back. The scenario has the participant going to the GP every 3 months. That would be a perfect window for any return of results. But also, have you not heard of online technical platforms that patients could use? They need setting up once and then could be returned to in other interval over a 20-year period.
Thank you. Do you have anything to say? Brief.
Well, I can only judge it from my own position. I would definitely not hold out in a study that went over 20 years with this kind of activity expected from me. I would drop out possibly after 3 or 4 years. So you can judge yourself how likely is that it would actually stick in this kind of study for 20 years?
Thank you very much. We're really running out of time. So now that you've heard the arguments from the opposition and the proposition team, we're going to ask you to go ahead and vote the same way we introduced you in the beginning. Do you want to just put that slide back on?
So this is the final question. As you remember, we voted already. We're going to check them later all together and analyze them a little bit. But first, this is the final vote, the decisive one, the one where you actually have your real say. So, should the here we are. Individual research results be returned, yes or no? The voting is on right now. 60 seconds. I'd like to take this time, because we don't have much, to thank the debaters for their great help. We can give them a round of applause at the very end. And also Tineke again for the time that she spent together with the other scenario team to build this thing. To the technicians down there, to Vitomir, who was in charge of the recording and YouTube, to my co-chair, Hayat. This was really very good for us, and I hope that it was as nice for you. We're going to find out about that very soon.
Thank you to you.
So make the best of your time. The votes are in. We have 67, again, one more than before. And here are the results. As you can see, let me make a little comparison with at the beginning of the session. We were very much more in favor of returning research results. But it seems that after 1 hour of debate, the opposition team managed to sway some votes. I'm going to end up more polarized than we were before. So congratulations. We have one more item to vote, and that's the scenario one. So the company, the consultancy that we're providing to the company, should they set up their own platform? So again, I'm asking you to pick up your phones and vote right now. I'm gonna say that. Again, let's make the best out of this time. So after this session, we have our lunch. So please go ahead and help yourself before the final session. That will be the closing ceremony.
That's not true. The program has changed. There has been a notification that there will be first a short closing session, and then lunch, and you have plenty of ability to go to the exhibition finally, and after that you can go to your home. But immediately after this session, there will be the closing ceremony, including 3 poster prizes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In Okapi.
Thanks. So this small again announcement is going to maybe change also the plan for our stakeholder forum meeting. Let's discuss this later on. So, final question. Should the company give access to the data, yes or no? Let's remind ourselves of the first results. So at the beginning of the session, you said yes. So let's see what you say right now. Okay. Here it is. That's a big change.
That's a huge change.
So by no means we tried to sort out the debate today. We wanted just to give, again, the chance to expert patients and expert, say, researchers the opportunity to debate this. We really hope that you enjoyed this. If you like it, please do say so. We have a last question for you on the screen. Would you like to see this again next year at EBW?
It's an important question.
It's an important question.
Very important question.
But again, our aim was really to fire up the debate and make sure that there was, let's say, not a consensus on the question. As you see, you yourself are challenged. You don't know what you want to do. So on the left, right, okay? But this shows once more that just the topic is so important that must be taken into consideration in a more, let's say, we need more research, we need more debate like this, we need more time, you need more time to actually discuss these things.
And if you have any comments also, you can reach me or Francesco and give us some of the suggestion comments if that session is to be repeated next year or in the other couple
you have
years.
ideas for the next time, assuming that you're gonna like it, for the next debates, or if you want to do something like this at the local level, EBRI, ESBB, we're here to help.
Please let us know.
Woohoo! Well, can you please put on? So thanks again for your time. Here are our contacts. Here's the link where you can find, in a few days' time, the recording of the session. And please don't hesitate to approach us. Thanks again to everyone. Thank you so much for picking up the challenge and being with us today. We really appreciate it. Thanks, Tineke, for putting this together.
And thank you everyone for attending and your participation in this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.